Chapter 41. 41. Last place on the mortal rank. Lu Yuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41. Last place on the mortal rank. Lu Yuan. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio Fence. Sitters existed in every world. For some major forces, rather than betting it all on one party and pursuing high risks for high returns, it was better to be a fence-sitter who invested a little on both sides, thus gaining low risk and low returns. Betting it all on one party might offer one huge profit, but a fence-sitter would never lose. One of the ways Taohua sect proceeded in being a fence-sitter was to plant their disciples in both the righteous and devilish sects secretly. In this way, no matter which side won in the end, they could stand on the winner's side with this early investment. Of course, if Taohua sect had been just a small sect, it wouldn't have been able to do such a thing. Rather, it may have even been annexed by the winning side due to its movements. However, in reality, the overall strength of the Taohua seer was vaguely above all the other sections. Whether it was the 5 righteous sects or the 3 devilish way sects, any of them alone was somewhat weaker than Taohua sect. It was also thanks to their strength that the Taohua sect was qualified to sit on the fence. Otherwise, did one really think that any power could be such a fence-sitter? Currently, Lu Yuan was clueless about Meng Ruiyan's true identity as a disciple of the Taohua sect. Although he knew through the system that Meng Ruiyan was a mole, he didn't know which sect she was from. After all, the system interface would only show one's characteristics and the skills that the person had mastered. It wouldn't tell him which force the person was from. Coming back to the story. It had been a year and 2 months since Meng Ruiyan left the Qingyun sect to deal with Lu Mo, the zombie keeper. Lu Yuan had become Elder Han's direct disciple 3 months after Meng Ruiyan left. The reason why it took Meng Ruiyan such a long time to complete the mission was mainly that she had spent a lot of time looking for Lu Mo's whereabouts. It took her a very long time to find Lu Mo's exact location. Due to the devilish way's restlessness and their frequent small movements, many evil incidents occurred in the territory of the 5 righteous sections. As a result, it was not easy for Meng Ruiyan to find information about Lu Mo among the many evil incidents in the Great Xia Kingdom. Fortunately, this was not where the battle between the righteous and devilish way was the most intense. Otherwise, she might have to spend even more time finding Lu Mo. The fiercest battles between the righteous and devilish ways were at the border between the 3 devilish sects and the 5 righteous sections. There, the 2 sides exchanged blows and the battle was very intense. However, looking at the current situation, the 5 righteous sects still had the advantage for the time being. This was mainly because the 3 devilish way sects didn't have any plans to launch a large-scale attack as of now, and their attacks were mostly to probe. Therefore, the intensity of this battle was not that high. The cultivators who participated were basically foundation establishment and chi cultivation stage cultivators. When core formation stage cultivators joined, it meant that the battle had truly started. As for when this official battle would begin, no one knew. Although many cultivators had fallen in this war between the righteous and devilish sects, it was not all bad. Before the start of the Great War between the righteous and devilish sects, many cultivators had been cultivating in seclusion, rarely having the chance to fight. Through this war between the righteous and devilish sects, many cultivators could then gain valuable combat experience and improve their strength significantly. In addition to increasing their combat experience, both the righteous and the devilish sects wanted to encourage their disciples to fight, so they took out many treasures as rewards. These rewards included but were not limited to divine abilities, magic instruments, pills, and so on. They were all things that couldn't be exchanged normally. It could be said that this war between the righteous and devilish sects was of great importance to all cultivators. It was both a crisis and an opportunity. This was the 5th war between the righteous and devilish sects and had already been going on for 10 years. It was around the time when Lu Yuan had just entered the sect that this battle had just begun. To cultivators, who could easily live up to 100 years, it was very normal for a great war to last for 10 to 20 years. There was even a war between the righteous and devilish sects that lasted for more than 100 years. Thus, these 10 years were just an appetizer for both the righteous and devilish ways. It was also in these 10 years that many talents emerged from the righteous and devilish ways. Some busybodies listed these talents and ranked them. The rankings were divided into 3 categories: heaven, earth, and mortal. The heaven rank included the nascent soul stage patriarchs. The earth rank included the core formation stage cultivators. The mortal rank included the foundation establishment stage cultivators. What was worth mentioning was that the first on the heaven rank was not from the righteous way nor the devilish way. It was the master of the Taohua sect, the number 1 nascent soul stage cultivator in the current world. The strange thing was that the name of the Taohua sect's master did not appear on the heaven rank. There was only a rough description of his strength. Even his gender was not clear to outsiders. The core formation and nascent soul stage cultivators didn't pay much attention to the heaven, earth, and mortal ranks. Only the foundation establishment stage cultivators would pay close attention to their ranking on the mortal rank. This was because most of them were still young and in the prime of their youth. The majority hoped to improve their ranking on the mortal rank and become famous. Among the direct disciples of the Qinyan sect, Mu Chichi was the one with the highest ranking on the mortal rank. Mu Chichi was quite arrogant, but her talent and strength were truly terrifying. At the age of 20, she already had a cultivation of level 8 at the foundation establishment stage. Not to mention that Mu Chichi had reached foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for her wood and water spiritual roots. Thus, even though she was only at level 8 of the foundation establishment stage, an ordinary level 9 foundation establishment stage cultivator wouldn't even be able to take one blow from her. That being said, even though her strength was so shocking, Mu Chichi was only ranked 6th on the mortal rank. With this, one could see the value of this list. Among the top 3 on the mortal rank, the first and second were both disciples of the devilish way. The third to the 7th place were disciples of the righteous path. I.e. remaining 8th, 9th, and 10th were from the devilish way. Although the number of disciples in the top 10 was the same for both the righteous and devilish ways, the fact that the top 2 were disciples of the devilish way still made the foundation establishment stage cultivators of the righteous way very unhappy. Some even began to doubt the integrity of the rankings released by Taohua sect. However, no matter how much the righteous way disciples protested, the top 10 on the mortal rank didn't change much. This made many feel indignant. They wanted to find an opportunity to fight the top 2 demonic cultivators. However, not everyone hoped that they could be on the mortal rank. Qinyan sect, Pharmacist Valley's herb fields. Who did this? Who the F***ck did this? This is a sin. Lu Yuan, who was usually refined and easy-going, was flustered and exasperated while cursing. He was holding a brief notice that was similar to the newspaper in his previous life. His face was flushed, and he was gritting his teeth. What was written on this brief notice was the latest ranking of the heaven, earth, and mortal ranks. Lu Yuan had been paying attention to these 3 ranks, not because he wanted to be on it but to remember those on it. It was so that he could avoid them. It was all to avoid danger in advance. However, he had never expected that he would actually see his own name on the rank today. Qinyan sect, Lu Yuan, ranking 100th on the mortal rank, description. A direct disciple of Qinyan sect's Pharmacist Valley. He practices the cultivation technique, 9-guard tortoiseshell technique, the heavenly flame divine ability, green flame technique, and has outstanding pill refinement skills. He can refine foundation establishment stage pills independently. Reason for ranking. He once faced the siege of many foundation establishment stage cultivators while still being at the Qi cultivation stage and lasted for a long time. One of the besiegers was the 6th on the mortal rank Qinyan sect's Mu Chichi. Lu Yuan's hands trembled with anger as he held the rank. He couldn't even smile. Damn it, what kind of trash character was he? Did he deserve this ranking? He did not. When Lu Yuan thought about all the trouble he might encounter because he was on the ranking, he immediately lost it. He had never expected that the person who decided the mortal rank could dig up the past happenings during his chi cultivation stage. This was 2F** King disgusting. Chapter 42. 42, A New Way to Obtain Luck. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. A New Way to Obtain Luck. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio L Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. The reaction of others when they found themselves on the mortal rank would be something along the lines of, "Hahaha, to think one got on the mortal rank." In contrast, Lu Yuan's reaction to being on the mortal rank was, "Sob, to think one got on the mortal rank." Lu Yuan's mood plummeted due to his appearance on the mortal rank. He looked at the mortal rank in his hand and still couldn't figure out how he could be on it. Just as Lu Yuan's face was ashen, a voice suddenly came from outside the herb fields. "Junior brother Lu, junior brother Lu. Good news, good news." Bai Dafei rushed into the room happily with a newsletter in his hand. However, when he saw Lu Yuan, who was sitting beside the pill furnace with a dead expression, the congratulatory words that he wanted to say were immediately held back. He walked to Lu Yuan's side and asked, Junior brother Lu, what's wrong?" Lu Yuan slowly raised the mortal rank newsletter in his hand and pointed to his name on it, saying, "Senior brother Bao. Something has happened to your junior brother." Bai Dafei looked at the mortal rank newsletter in the other party's hand and was dumbfounded. Wait, this script seemed wrong. When the others made it into the rankings, which one of them wasn't overjoyed? They couldn't wait to walk around the sect with the ranking then. But why was it that when it came to his junior brother Lu, it was completely different? When Bai Dafei saw that he was ranked 50th on the mortal rank, he had been overjoyed for a whole month. It was to the point that every time someone chatted with him, he would somehow intentionally lead the topic to the mortal rank. For example, when someone asked, "Have you eaten today?" he would reply, "How do you know I'm 50th on the mortal rank?" He was simply smug. Yet, when it came to Lu Yuan, the situation was completely different. It should be something joyful to be listed on the mortal rank, but why did junior brother Lu look as if someone in his family had died? Thinking of this, Bai Dafei asked tentatively, "Junior brother Lu, about you being on the mortal rank. Is it a bad thing?" Lu Yuan looked at Bai Dafei and said with an extremely serious expression, "It's bad, it's very bad." Why? Lu Yuan stood up. As he paced around the room, he said in a serious tone, "Senior brother, you might think that being on the mortal rank is the same as being famous among the cultivators in the same batch as you. You may think that it's a useful tool to help you become famous. But in my opinion, this is not a good thing at all. Instead, it is a potential death warrant. Senior brother, think about it. This ranking confirms the strength of each seer's talents, but to a certain extent, it has also set a clear goal for everyone. Before the rankings appeared, although cultivators could roughly sense each other's strength, they would be wary of each other and give up fighting since they have never actually fought before. But after the rankings appeared, everything is different. Cultivators can make a preliminary judgment of the opponent's strength based on the ranking. Once they discover that the other party's ranking is lower than their own, there's a high chance that they'll make a move. In this way, wouldn't it intensify the battle between cultivators? His words made so much sense. However, Lu Yuan's analysis had not ended yet. To be honest, the intensification of the battles is only one of the disadvantages of being in the ranking. Another bad thing is that this ranking will expose our trump cards. Senior brother, think about it. Before you were listed, how could anyone else who was not in the same sect as you know what level your cultivation is at and what divine abilities you cultivated? But with this ranking, others from different sects can know your general situation through it. If the other party uses this to set up a targeted tactic, under the circumstances where they come intentionally but you are not prepared, even if your cultivation base is higher than the other party, there is still a possibility of you ultimately dying in the hands of the other party. Given all this, do you still think that being on the ranking is something to be happy about? He was right. Looking at it from this perspective, being on the mortal rank was indeed not something to be happy about. If his enemies knew his specific situation through the ranking, they might be able to kill him. At the thought of this, Bai Dafei's gaze toward Lu Yuan changed. Previously, he had only thought that this junior brother of his was a rare pill-refining genius. Unexpectedly, not only was his junior brother talented in pill refinement but he far exceeded his senior brother in terms of wisdom as well. Bai Dafei was ashamed, so ashamed. To think that he had thought that it was a good thing to be on the ranking. Thinking of this, Bai Dafei immediately began to ask for guidance. Then according to what you have said, not only should we not think about raising our ranking on the mortal rank, but we should also try to find a way to remove ourselves from the ranking, right? Lu Yuan nodded his head. That's right. Not only do I think so, but I'm also prepared to do so. Hearing this, Bai Dafei immediately became anxious. Wait. Junior brother, you're at the bottom of the mortal rank now, so it's easy to remove you from the list. But what about me, your senior brother? I'm already ranked 50th. It's almost impossible to get off the ranking. Senior brother, your situation is indeed a bit special, but I have an idea. Bai Dafei's face lit up. BDNVL.M, please tell me, junior brother. If I can survive this tribulation, I'll definitely reward you handsomely in the future. Lu Yuan pinched his chin and calmly analyzed. According to my observation in the past few months, the mortal rank is updated once a month. The ranking seems to be based on the current strength of the cultivators. In other words, if you can pretend that your cultivation has dropped, it's possible for your ranking to drop. For example, sustaining a serious injury that lowered your cultivation. Bai Dafei's eyes lit up, and he slapped his thigh, saying excitedly, "You're right, why didn't I think of that?" After his excitement, Bai Dafei gratefully shook Lu Yuan's hand. Junior brother Lu, it's all thanks to your reminder today. Otherwise, I might still be immersed in the false honor of being listed on the list. If this went on, I'm afraid one would have encountered unexpected disasters in the future. I won't say those useless words. I promise to remember your kindness in my heart and will definitely repay it in the future. Junior brother, you should cultivate well. I'm off to lower my ranking on the mortal rank. With that, Bai Dafei left in a hurry. Bai Dafei's hasty action was clearly due to the shock he had received from Lu Yuan's words. Therefore, he wanted to get himself off the mortal bank as soon as possible. Notions after Bai Dafei left, a new system notification appeared in Lu Yuan's mind. Ding! Due to your reminder, Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator Bai Dafei has evaded a death tribulation. Luck Talent, Destined Lucky Star activated, ding! You have obtained 1000 points of luck value from Foundation Establishment Stage Cultivator Bai Dafei. Current luck value 1321, this worked too. Looking at the 2 points of luck value that appeared out of thin air, Lu Yuan was stunned. Before this, he had never thought that he would have such a way to obtain luck value. However, this also proved Lu Yuan's theory of the threat of being on the mortal rank. Wasn't being on this rank purely harmful? He had to get off of it as soon as possible. As these 2 points of luck value entered his account, Lu Yuan's luck value had thus reached a high of 1321 points. Of which, 321 points were Lu Yuan's gains over the past few months. Becoming a direct disciple and accepting his master's assessment increased Lu Yuan's luck value, although it was not by much. These 1000 points of luck value were undoubtedly a timely rain for him. Lu Yuan was about to complete his master's assessment and thus obtain the bird-type Demon King's blood essence. However, the amount of luck value he had was still not enough to meet the requirements for achieving Foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, and he had been fretting over it. But now, the appearance of these 1000 points of luck value allowed him to have the capital to achieve Foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for his wind's spiritual route. Now that everything was ready, he just had to wait another 2 months for his master's assessment to end so that he could obtain the bird-type Demon King's blood essence. Then, he would be able to immediately achieve foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for his wind spiritual route. At that time, he would have the defense technique, the 9-guard mystical black tortoise technique, in his left hand and the escape technique, the breeze mystical scripture, in his right hand. Stable. He would be too stable. As long as his defense was high enough and he could run fast enough, death could never catch up to him. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan laughed happily. Kakik. Chapter 43. 43. Start learning combat skills. You're listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 43. Start learning combat skills. Translator. Nyo-i.bo Studio Editor. Nyo-i.bo Studio. Through by Duffey's matter, this was the first time Lu Yuan found out that he could also obtain luck value by changing the bad luck of others. In fact, in a sense, this situation was equivalent to Bai Dafei using his luck to offset the misfortune that might befall him because he was on the mortal rank. Had Bai Dafei lost out? Definitely not. After all, although luck was precious, life was obviously more precious than that. If not for Lu Yuan's reminder, Bai Dafei, who was on the mortal rank and had a high ranking, would have died. It was very likely that he would be targeted by a devilish way disciple to make a name for himself. After all, compared to ordinary sword cultivators or spell cultivators, a pharmacist like Bai Dafei was undoubtedly easier to deal with. Pharmacists were the standard support or logistics characters in games. Generally speaking, these kinds of characters wouldn't have very strong combat power. They were the typical pushovers that were definitely easier to beat than other types of cultivators. When he thought of this, Lu Yuan felt that he really was such a good person. If it wasn't for him, senior brother Bai might have been in danger. Having such a good junior brother like him was really the other party's good fortune. As for the 1,000 points of luck value, he would take it as a thank-you gift from his senior brother. After sighing with emotion, Lu Yuan began to recollect his thoughts and prepare to start today's cultivation. Although Lu Yuan felt helpless when he learned that he had been ranked on the mortal rank, it was not a particularly difficult problem to deal with. He could just randomly find a foundation establishment stage disciple and pretend to lose to the other party. That fellow disciple should be very happy when the time came. After all, to most people, being able to enter the mortal rank was a big deal. It didn't only just bring fame. From a certain perspective, being on the mortal rank was also a symbol of potential. Once one entered the mortal rank, the sect would give one more attention and nurture. After all, disregarding the neutral sect, Taohua sect, there were more than 200 foundation establishment stage direct disciples in the 8 big sects, but only 100 people could enter the mortal rank. Therefore, it was not an easy task for most of the direct disciples to enter the mortal rank. Lu Yuan speculated that if Mu Chichi, who ranked 6th on the mortal rank, hadn't been present among the people who captured him back then, with his current cultivation and the techniques he had displayed, he wouldn't have been able to enter the mortal rank by coming in last either. However, compared to how he entered the mortal rank, Lu Yuan was more curious about what methods the Taohua sect had used to rank the talents. His speculation was that the people of the Taohua sect had some special magic item that could detect the approximate strength of the cultivators on the ranking. Or, there was a spy from the Taohua sect in every sect. Although the former was possible, it wasn't very likely. The latter was the most likely. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan began to doubt Meng Ruiyan's true identity. Could it be that she was a spy from the Taohua sect? However, even though he had such a guess, Lu Yuan would not immediately probe Meng Ruiyan's identity. After all, the Taohua sect was no ordinary power. The current number 1 nascent soul stage cultivator in the world was in the Taohua sect. The reason why one could become the number 1 cultivator in this world once reaching the peak of the nascent soul stage was that this world was at the edge of the celestial cultivation world. Not only was this place lacking in resources, but it was also relatively closed off. The nascent soul stage was the upper limit here. If one wanted to go further, one would have to leave this world and head to the center. Otherwise, given that the founder of the Qingyun sect was clearly a big shot who had ascended to become a celestial, there was no reason for his disciples and grand disciples to not even have the ability to break through to the nascent soul stage. Only the restriction of heaven and earth could explain this. Lu Yuan hadn't deduced all this himself. Han Yuanshan had told him all this after he became a Foundation establishment stage disciple. However, it was meaningless for him to know this now. To be honest, Lu Yuan was very satisfied with the current situation. The environment was closed off, which meant that there would not be too many outsiders. Without too many outsiders, he didn't have to worry about meeting the top big shots who were on expeditions in the mortal world and being killed by them. As for resources, Lu Yuan was even less worried. He was now only a small Foundation establishment stage cultivator and would thus not encounter a situation where resources were limited yet. When he reached the core formation stage or even the nascent soul stage, this weakness will slowly manifest. However, he currently just needed to develop slowly. After Lu Yuan confirmed that his ranking on the mortal rank would not affect him in the short term, he began today's cultivation. Ding! You have performed pill refinement seriously. Metaphysical pill refinement technique proficiency plus 50. Ding! You have seriously performed fire control once. Fire wielding technique proficiency plus 60. Ding! You have seriously performed item manipulation once. Exquisite item manipulation proficiency plus 50. After the pill refinement, Lu Yuan went outside to carry out a complete set of nurturing procedures for the medicinal herbs in the herb fields, such as loosening the soil, watering, trimming the leaves, and injecting rare metal nutrients. During this process, Lu Yuan's other 5-element item manipulation and elementary skills also improved quite a bit. Ding! You have seriously performed the earth-wielding technique once. Earth-wielding technique plus 30. Ding! You have seriously performed the wood-wielding technique once. Wood-wielding technique proficiency plus 45. Ding! You have seriously performed the water-wielding technique once. Water-wielding technique proficiency plus 60. It was already afternoon by the time he was done. This was also the time when Lu Yuan cultivated other divine abilities. With the appearance of the heaven, earth, and mortal ranks, Lu Yuan felt a sense of danger. Perhaps one day, even a pharmacist like him would be forced to the front lines. Although he didn't want to do something as dangerous as fighting with others, Lu Yuan knew that as long as he was still in Qingyun sect, he would have to help the sect in battle one day. After all, on the surface, celestial cultivators seemed like they didn't care about the worldly matters of the mortal world, but in reality, that was only because they didn't think much of what the mortals valued. In order to compete for the resources that the celestial cultivators had set their eyes on, it was not uncommon for them to fight each other. It could even be said that fighting for limited cultivation resources was the norm for cultivators. For a cultivator like Lu Yuan, who was cultivating in a sect and had displayed a certain amount of talent, he was already considered very lucky since he was being nurtured by the sect. Those unaffiliated cultivators without sects were the ones who had it tough during cultivation. They might even be willing to risk their lives to complete some tasks for an elementary cultivation pill. For example, the Devil Slayers division in the Great Xia Kingdom, a mortal kingdom controlled by the Qingyun sect, had such situations. In the Devil Slayers division, other than a few disciples sent by the Qingyun sect, the majority of the members were the unaffiliated cultivators of the mortal world. Every time these unaffiliated cultivators completed a mission, they would basically receive some cultivation pills and spiritual stones. Their mission was to solve the evil incidents in the Great Xia Kingdom. Some of these evil incidents could be caused by evil cultivators, while others could be natural. After all, anything could happen when there was sufficient spiritual power between heaven and earth. Lu Yuan, who was in the Qingyun sect, did not have to deal with these situations for the time being. However, there were some problems that he couldn't avoid even if he wanted to. He would encounter them sooner or later. The only thing he could do was to prepare more methods before such a problem arose. This was to avoid situations where he did not have enough trump cards or was not prepared. Thus, the current Lu Yuan was preparing to enrich his combat methods. In terms of defense, he had the 9-guard tortoiseshell technique. In terms of escaping, he had the breeze mystical scripture. The only thing he was lacking now was some offensive divine abilities. The most suitable attack method he could think of was no doubt swordsmanship. After all, if one didn't cultivate a sword, how could it be called celestial cultivation? No matter how one looked at it, flying on a sword was more handsome than flying on a spear or flying on an axe. Hence, in the following days, Lu Yuan put his swordsmanship on the agenda. Ding! You have seriously cultivated your swordsmanship. Elementary Swordsmanship Proficiency plus 10. Chapter 44. 44. What? You want me to go on an expedition? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44. What? You want me to go on an expedition? Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio 4 years later, in the herb fields of the Pharmacist Valley. What? Master, what did you just say? Can you repeat it? Elder Han looked at Lu Yuan, who was in disbelief. I said that I've already spoken to the sect leader to arrange for you to go to the Great Xia Kingdom's Devil Slayers Division in the capital. You'll temporarily be the director of the Devil Slayer Division there, he said with a blank expression. When Lu Yuan heard this, he immediately pointed to his face and said, Master, are you sure you're not joking with me? You want me to be the director of the Demon Slayers Division? What kind of trash M1? Do one have it in me to be the director of the Devil Slayers Division? Obviously not. Hearing Lu Yuan belittling himself like this, Elder Han's face immediately turned ugly. What did he mean he was trash? Wouldn't that make him, who accepted trash like Lu Yuan as his direct disciple, a trash breeder? He could scold himself, but please don't implicate him. The master won't pay for the disciple's actions. At this moment, Lu Yuan did not seem to understand the seriousness of the matter. He ignored Han Yuanshan's increasingly ugly expression and continued to express his opinion. Master, it's not like you don't know my situation. Although one do have a little talent in pill refinement, and one did win a drop of the bird-type Demon King's blood essence from you 4 years ago, thus successfully reaching foundation establishment for my wind spiritual root, in terms of fighting, I really can't compare to the other disciples. In a place like the Great Xia Kingdom's Devil Slayers Division, how could they let a useless person like me become the director? Master, please take a good look at me. Do I look like someone who can lead a group of cultivators and help the Great Xia Kingdom to vanquish demons and devils? If you really let me lead them, the Great Xia Kingdom will be destroyed. Who knows, maybe even the sect will be implicated in the end. Master, in my opinion, shut up. Seeing that Lu Yuan was about to continue chattering, even the kind Elder Han was starting to get annoyed. He abruptly left his seat and strode to Lu Yuan. Then, he pointed at the latter's nose and scolded him. Lu Yuan, put away your cautious mentality. Don't tell your master that you can't do this or that. I've seen your situation over the past few years. I'm too embarrassed to even say what you're thinking right now. Just tell me how many times you've left the sect in the 5 years since you came to acknowledge me as your master. Facing his master's powerful words, Lu Yuan's imposing manner instantly fell by a notch. Han Yuanshan had been holding back his anger for a long time. He might as well use this opportunity to vent all his anger at once. You're not answering, right? If you're not going to answer, I'll answer for you. Other than the first year's assessment, in the following 4 years, other than going to see your partner Yiting you never left the sect at all. Your activities were always within the sect. And if we start counting since you entered the sect, 10 years in the Qi cultivation stage, 5 years in the back mountain, and 5 years as a direct disciple. 20 years. It's been 20 years. One can't believe that you're so steady that you haven't left the mountain for 20 years. I have met countless people, but I've never seen a cultivator as afraid of death as you. I can understand why you didn't go down the mountain when you were in the chi cultivation stage. You had to concentrate on your cultivation at that time, so it was normal for you not to go down the mountain when your strength was not enough. I can also understand why you didn't go out when you were grounded. After all, that was the sect's punishment for you. It's just that after I truly understood you, I suddenly felt that when you heard the punishment of house arrest, you probably laughed out loud in your heart. As he spoke, Han Yuanshan stared into Lu Yuan's eyes. Being stared at by him like that, Lu Yuan's eyes wavered as he said with a flushed face, "One didn't laugh in my heart at that time. I was obviously scared at that time. Yes, I was scared." However, facing this explanation, Han Yuanshan had a look of, "Sure, continue to bluff." Damn it, to think he was seen through. Something was wrong, something was very wrong. Was this still his good master, Han Yuanshan? Why was he so different today? Could it be that he was possessed? Perhaps he had guessed Lu Yuan's thoughts, but Han Yuanshan went to the point aggressively. "Put away your unreasonable speculations. I'm not possessed, nor have I gone mad. I've been wanting to say these words for a long time, but I just couldn't find the opportunity. Lu Yuan, oh, Lu Yuan, I know your usual character. You're steady. But you can't be that steady. Cultivators have always been fighting against the heavens, the earth, and humans. Only then will we have a chance to ascend and transcend. But you don't go out of the mountain gate, you don't do any missions, and I haven't even seen you sparring with other disciples. What do you want to do? What the hell do you want to do? Are you going to hide in the mountains and refine pills for the rest of your life?" "What's so bad about refining pills?" Lu Yuan muttered softly. "Eh? What did you say? Speak louder. Didn't you eat?" Looking at Han Yuanshan, who was obviously in a fit of anger, Lu Yuan did not dare to say anything more. Speak louder. If he really say it out loud, he was afraid that his master would kill him on the spot. Han Yuanshan looked at Lu Yuan, who had lowered his head and was silent. He pinched the space between his eyebrows. "Lu Yuan, don't blame me for scolding you. It's been 20 years. You've been in the sect for 20 years. It's time for you to go out and take a look. Although pharmacists don't need to fight much, we are still cultivators. What we cultivators seek in cultivation is to live as long as the heavens and earth, to be free. Not to be afraid of this and that, and be cooped up in one place. Listen to me. Go down the mountain and go on an expedition. I don't ask for you to stay long down there. 10 years, just 10 years. 10 years is like a snap of your fingers to you. After you come back, even if you want to stay in the sect for 100 years, I won't say anything more to you." After hearing that his master wouldn't scold him anymore even if he stayed in the sect for 100 years after his return, Lu Yuan's spirits were immediately lifted. "Master, are you serious?" "Very much so." "Then you can write a written pledge or swear on your Tao heart." Han Yuanshan was speechless. Outside Han Yuanshan's herb field. "Senior brother Bai, is junior brother Lu still inside?" "Yes, he was just called in by master. It seems that master has something to tell him." "Junior sister Mu, how about you go in later?" Mu Chichi nodded. However, just as she was about to say something, a terrifying explosion suddenly came from the herb field. The sudden explosion frightened the two and they shrunk their necks. Then, they stuck their heads out in unison and looked into the door curiously. "Murder. A master is going to kill his disciple. Someone, come quickly." In the herb field, Lu Yuan had turned into a green flash of light. While he ran, he shouted. Behind him, Han Yuanshan, who was flustered and exasperated, used his pill fire divine ability, which was a rare sight. He chased after Lu Yuan relentlessly. The explosion had been caused by Han Yuanshan's outburst of pill fire. Mu Qiqi and Bai Dafei were dumbfounded when they saw this. Then, the two seemed to have thought of something and looked at each other with tacit understanding. They had silent communication. Mu Qiqi, how is it? Should we interfere? Bai Dafei, a master beating up his disciple is not easy to interfere with, right? Mu Qiqi, then. We'll just pretend we didn't see it. Bai Dafei nodded frantically. Then, the two heads that were sticking out quietly retracted back. In the process, Bai Dafei even secretly locked the door from the outside. As the courtyard was sealed by an array, Lu Yuan, who could only leave from the main entrance, ran to the main entrance. However, just as he was about to push the door open, he suddenly realized that the door was locked. Who is it? Who the hell is so wicked? Why the hell did you close the door in broad daylight? Open the door. When Bai Dafei heard this, not only did he not open the door, he even silently stretched out his leg and used all his strength to block the door, preventing Lu Yuan from breaking out. Not long after, the sound of beating and Lu Yuan's wails could be heard. Hearing the commotion, Bai Dafei apologized in his heart, "Junior brother Lu, I'm sorry. Master is currently in a fit of anger. If he doesn't vent his anger this time, I might be in trouble later. So this time, I'll have to let you bear the brunt for now." On the other side, when Mu Qiqi heard the sound of Lu Yuan being taught a lesson by his master, the smile on her face was beyond happy. It was similar to when Lu Yuan was a student in his previous life. When he saw his teacher teaching other students a lesson, he gloated over their misfortune as if it was none of his business. Of the 4 people in the Pharmacist Valley's herb field, 2 were watching the show, 1 was in a fit of anger, and the other was being beaten. A world where only Lu Yuan was hurt had been achieved. Chapter 45. 45, Not enough, the preparations are not enough. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 45. Not enough, the preparations are not enough. Translator. Nyo I.bo Studio Editor. Nyo I.bo Studio. In the face of his master Han Yuanshan's sudden backstabbing, Lu Yuan was more or less unprepared. He felt that things had come too suddenly. He had not prepared anything, but everything had been arranged for him already. The uncontrollable situation made the steady Lu Yuan very unhappy. However, he had no choice. After all, he currently did not have the ability to refuse. Since he couldn't resist, he would just enjoy it. Either way, this kind of thing. It wasn't the first time he had encountered such a situation. Even though Han Yuanshan had forcibly made some arrangements, Lu Yuan did not have much dissatisfaction with him. Han Yuanshan had shouldered a lot of pressure, which allowed him to stay on the mountain for so long. One had to know that a great war was currently going on between the righteous and demonic sections. The Qingyun sect was lacking manpower everywhere. It was true that a pharmacist's main job was to refine pills, but in the situation where the sect's territory spanned wide and far, if one only stayed in the sect to refine pills, the result of reinforcement supplies being unable to keep up would easily be caused, which would, in turn, cause all sorts of troubles in war. Not to mention, there may be special situations like a siege. Therefore, it was very normal to arrange for some pharmacists to go to war as well. It was the same logic as bringing some engineers to war. The other direct disciples had already gone on several expeditions. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, hid in the mountain for a long time. If not for Elder Han's excuse that Lu Yuan was refining pills to reject the sect's arrangements many times, Lu Yuan might have been asked to go down the mountain for an expedition in his second year as a direct disciple. The reason why Han Yuanshan wanted Lu Yuan to leave the mountain now was probably that he could not find another excuse. After all, not only had many of the disciples of the other elders left the mountain, but some had even died. What right did Elder Han's disciple have to hide in the sect? So what if he was a pharmacist? A pharmacist could also be of some use, all right. but even under pressure from all sides, Elder Han still managed to get Lu Yuan a good job. And that was to become the director of the Devil Slayers division in the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom. The reason why sect leader Mu ultimately agreed to this arrangement was most likely because he had considered Lu Yuan's status as a pharmacist. Still, it was all because Lu Yuan had no hope of reaching the core formation stage. If Lu Yuan had the chance to reach the core formation stage, then no matter how much pressure he faced, Elder Han would still protect him and make him stay on the mountain. A foundation establishment stage pharmacist with no hope of reaching the core formation stage was not worthy of making Elder Han withstand the pressure. There was another important reason. Going down the mountain on an expedition was something every disciple of the Qingyun sect had to go through, even the disciples of the Pharmacist Valley. That being said, one expedition was usually enough for the disciples of the Pharmacist Valley. Moreover, the places they were sent for expeditions were usually very safe. After all, the training of technical personnel was naturally different from that of combat personnel. The reason why there were such rules was that Qingyun sect wanted to show the fairness of the sect and their attention to equality. They wouldn't make an exception for the disciples of the Pharmacist Valley. In addition to the pressure from many parties, there was another reason why Han Yuanshan insisted on making Lu Yuan go down the mountain on an expedition. It was because he felt that Lu Yuan could not continue to work behind closed doors. From Han Yuanshan's point of view, even someone as talented as Mu Qiqi had already gone on several expeditions. She had even fought with devilish way cultivators and improved at a lightning speed. In contrast, let alone fight against devilish way cultivators, he had not even seen Lu Yuan spar with his fellow disciples. Was this okay? This was obviously not okay. If it was someone with no sense of responsibility as a master, they would not care whether Lu Yuan left the mountain or not. He could just do whatever he wanted. After all, there was no performance evaluation for core formation stage elders. It was the disciple's problem if he could not rise. What did it have to do with the core formation stage elder? However, Han Yuanshan was not an irresponsible person. Especially after knowing that Lu Yuan had no hope of reaching the core formation stage in this lifetime, Elder Han felt that the boy should make his limited life more exciting. After all, if a cultivator didn't reach the core formation stage, their lifespan wouldn't be able to exceed the 1,000-year limit. Even if Lu Yuan cultivated a special flame divine ability like the green flame technique, which could increase his lifespan to a certain extent, his lifespan would be a little over 1,000 years at most. 1,000 years wasn't a short lifespan for mortals, but it wasn't long for cultivators. Instead of spending a large amount of time on cultivation, Han Yuanshan felt that Lu Yuan should really go out more and see the outside world. Besides, the place that he had chosen for Lu Yuan's expedition was the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom. As a mortal country under the control of the Qingyun sect, which place in the entire Great Xia Kingdom was the safest? It would definitely be the Great Xia Kingdom's capital. Ordinary demons and evil cultivators wouldn't dare to cause trouble in the Great Xia Kingdom's capital. After all, the place was guarded by the foundation establishment stage disciples of the Qingyun sect all year round. Don't underestimate the status of a foundation establishment stage cultivator in the mortal world. For a mortal country, if they could have a foundation establishment stage cultivator's long-term protection, it was already very safe. Besides, even if a demon king comparable to the core formation stage were to cause trouble in the Great Xia Kingdom's capital, the Qingyun sect would also be able to provide assistance in the shortest time possible. Therefore, Elder Han sent Lu Yuan to the Great Xia Kingdom's Devil Slayers division. To be honest, he just wanted the boy to experience the human world and not lock himself in his room all day to refine pills. If Han Yuanshan really wanted Lu Yuan to take on a harsh expedition, he wouldn't have just sent Lu Yuan to the Great Xia Kingdom's capital. He would have sent the boy straight to the front lines. It could be said that Han Yuanshan only wanted Lu Yuan to go through the motions. Just a few years of an expedition in the capital of Great Xia, which was a safe place. Lu Yuan's current cultivation was already at the standard foundation establishment stage. Moreover, as a pharmacist, his mission in the Great Xia's capital would be similar to that of his mission in the sect. It was also just to refine pills. In addition, the capital of Great Xia was the base camp of the Qingyun sect in the mortal world. Elder Han felt that this expedition was very safe. If the Great Xia Kingdom's capital could be infiltrated by the enemy, then the Qingyun sect would not be far from being destroyed. Even though Elder Han felt that the Great Xia Kingdom's capital was very safe, a certain someone who was packing didn't think so. Bring it, these green flame pills must be brought along. In case one encounter a situation where I lack spiritual energy, these pills will have a miraculous effect. Bring these too, these puppets. If I encounter an enemy that even the green flame pill can't kill, these puppets will also have a wondrous effect. I'll also need to bring more than 1,000 cultivation pills for cultivation. A few hundred marrow. Cleansing pills to recover spiritual energy at critical moments. The talismans that the demoness gave me. The few magic instruments that Senior Sister Mu gave me. There's also the pill furnace. Under the circumstances in which Lu Yuan brought everything, he ended up with 10 more storage bags on his waist. It made him look like he had a life buoy tied to his waist. After a while, Lu Yuan had almost emptied his residence. Lu Yuan sat in his empty residence and began to carefully analyze if there was anything he had not brought. One must know that the next time he would return would be 10 years later. Although 10 years wasn't a long time for cultivators, no one could tell what would happen in these 10 years. Perhaps he would never have the chance to come back after he left the mountain this time. Although the possibility was small, it was not impossible. Therefore, before he returned to his residence, Lu Yuan used the sect contribution points and spiritual stones that he had accumulated over the years to exchange for the cultivation techniques and divine abilities that he needed from the scripture pavilion. Metal, water, wind, wood, fire, earth. The cultivation techniques he exchanged for were Fire Cicada 9 Transformations, Foundation Establishment Chapter, and Mountain River Array Diagram, Foundation Establishment Chapter. Among them, the Fire Cicada 9 Transformations didn't need further explanations. It was a standard fire-type Foundation Establishment Stage cultivation technique. However, the Mountain River Array Diagram was a bit special. This was because it was an earth-type array cultivation technique. It was said that when this technique was cultivated to great success, one could determine geomancy with a glance, turning misfortune into fortune. Geomancy was one of the skills that a tomb engineer had to know. Indeed, a tomb engineer. The core reason why Lu Yuan learned this cultivation technique was so that he would have the means to know the burial grounds of the big shots in advance. Don't misunderstand. He wasn't thinking of digging the big shots out of the soil after he mastered the cultivation technique. He simply wanted to notice their burial grounds earlier and avoid them. After all, in the world of cultivators, there were many cases of cultivators dying but not completely dead. As long as the target's bones were not completely crushed, ashes weren't scattered, and the soul wasn't destroyed, one couldn't guarantee that one had killed the other party. The many big shots in the celestial novels seem to have been buried in the ground, but they might be resurrected at any time. Lu Yuan did not want to be taught a lesson by a big shot who had suddenly resurrected. It could only be said that he had really considered all aspects when it came to protecting his life. When he was in the sect, he considered the situation where the celestial beasts raised by his fellow sect members would go crazy and hurt him. Out of the sect, he considered the situation of the big shots resurrecting in the cemetery. Steady, he was really too steady. After all the preparations were complete, Lu Yuan was not in a hurry to head to the capital of Great Xia. He was planning to find out the situation there before he went. It was to prevent himself from falling into the tiger's den. Although the cases of spies infiltrating the sect's base camps were small, they were definitely not zero. The more Lu Yuan thought about it, the more he felt that his preparations were not enough. Why couldn't they wait until he cultivated to the nascent soul stage before asking him to go down the mountain on an expedition? The foundation establishment stage was still too unsafe. Chapter 46. 46. Change upon change. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 46. Change upon change. Translator. Nyo-iwo Studio Editor. Nyo-iwo Studio in the Direct Disciples Valley of the Qingyan sect. Senior Sister Yi, are you there? Meng Ruyan, who had been cultivating with her eyes closed, smiled when she heard the voice transmission. Not long after, Lu Yuan, who was standing outside the residence, saw the door before him slowly open. Lu Yuan walked in and saw Meng Ruyan lying on the bed. Meng Ruyan seemed to have misunderstood Lu Yuan's intentions. She was half lying on the bed, her clothes half off and her face blushing. Although Lu Yuan already knew Meng Ruyan's background, the steady Lu Yuan maintained a serious expression. It was as if he was afraid that if he was not serious, the demoness Meng Ruyan would not become serious either. He did not expect that demoness Meng Ruyan's misunderstanding seemed to have deepened. She looked at Lu Yuan and said with a smile, "One didn't expect junior brother Lu to have become fond of pretending to be serious after not seeing you for a few days. I'll try my best to cooperate with you." With that, Meng Ruyan sat up. In the blink of an eye, her expression, eyes, temperament, and behavior all took a sharp 180 degrees turn. She turned into a celestial in white as written in the novels, those who sat above the clouds and were untainted by the mortal world. Facing the demoness Meng Ruyan, whose temperament had changed, Lu Yuan was once again being bewitched. He could feel the changes in his body and mind. Immediately after, Lu Yuan looked down on himself. Lu Yuan, oh, Lu Yuan, this demoness had just used a small trick. Why did he fall for it again? Had he forgotten why he was here today? Junior brother, could it be that you don't like me like this? I do like it. He did have some business to settle today, but they could talk about it later. There's no hurry. 2 hours later. Senior sister, one really have business with you today. Meng Ruyan, who was dressing up, turned to look at Lu Yuan, who was lying on the bed, and said with a smile, "Tell me about it." Lu Yuan sat up and asked with a serious look, "Senior sister, how much do you know about the situation in the capital of Great Xia?" Hearing this, Meng Ruyan, who was in the middle of dressing up, suddenly stopped. She then looked at Lu Yuan and asked nonchalantly, "Why are you suddenly bringing this up?" "My master disdains me for staying on the mountain and not going out, so he wants me to go down the mountain on an expedition," Lu Yuan said with a bitter smile, "and the arrangement he gave me was to be the director of the Devil Slayers Division in the capital of Great Xia for 10 years. He wants you to be the director of the Devil Slayers Division." Hearing the surprise in Meng Ruyan's voice, Lu Yuan immediately felt that something was wrong. No way, he couldn't really be that unlucky, right? At the thought of this, Lu Yuan asked tentatively, "Senior sister, could it be that there's something wrong with the capital of Great Xia?" Hearing this, Meng Ruyan seemed to realize that she had lost her composure. She quickly adjusted her state of mind. "Junior brother Lu, have you ever learned about the situation of the Great Xia's imperial family?" Lu Yuan shook his head. Meng Ruyan looked at him and said after a moment of silence, "Then let me tell you something and you should understand why one lost my composure just now. Great Xia's imperial family is surnamed Chen." The moment she said that, thunderclaps sounded in Lu Yuan's heart. Surname Chen. No way, it couldn't be such a coincidence, right? One had to know that the senior brother Chen Yan, the doormat whom he had met when he had just transmigrated, was surnamed Chen. Senior sister, could it be that senior brother Chen Yan? Is he from Great Xia's imperial family? Meng Ruyan left the dressing table and returned to the bed. She sat beside Lu Yuan and poked his chest with her finger. Then, she said with a faint smile, "What's wrong? Are you afraid now? But just now, one didn't see you holding back at all." Looking at Lu Yuan's awkward expression, Meng Rian stopped teasing him. Meng Rian laid down beside Lu Yuan and said lazily, "To be honest, you don't have much to worry about. The so-called imperial family is only relative to ordinary people. To us cultivators, the imperial family without any cultivation is just a slightly bigger ant. You don't have to worry about others making things difficult for you after you join the Devil Slayers division. Although Qin Yan's talent is good, he is still far from my level. His status in the sect is far inferior to mine too. Not to mention that you're also a direct disciple of the sect and have been on the mortal rank for a short time." At this point, Meng Rian said pointedly, "Others may not know about your situation, but one know it very well. Junior brother, even if your current strength is not as good as mine, I think you're not too far off. You've changed a lot since you became a direct disciple." Lu Yuan didn't say anything in response to Meng Rian's insinuations. He knew very well that the improvement of his spiritual root aptitude could not be hidden from Meng Rian. After all, after he successfully achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, his aptitude for both his metal and water spiritual roots reached 200 points. His total spiritual root aptitude had now reached an astonishing 900 points. How could Meng Rian, who had been in close contact with Lu Yuan many times, not be able to sense such a shocking spiritual root aptitude? However, Meng Rian would imagine the existence of the system. She might be thinking of another possibility. Junior brother, the quality of your foundation establishment stage spiritual root. It shouldn't be ordinary, right? At the very least, you should have achieved foundation establishment through the way of the earth. With your cultivation, you don't have to be afraid of Qin Yan. As for the situation with Great Xia's imperial family, you'll understand once one explain it to you. As a force supported by the Qinyan sect in the mortal world, there is a rule that cannot be violated in the Great Xia's imperial family. That is, the emperor of every generation in the Great Xia kingdom is one who can't cultivate. It's because the sect is worried that someone will occupy the position and have unnecessary thoughts. To make up for this, the Qinyan sect will regularly take in a few imperial family disciples to the sect for cultivation. Back then, Qin Yan was one of those people. The Yi family that I'm from is an unaffiliated cultivator family in the Great Xia kingdom. My father, who is the family head of the Yi family, has reached the pseudo-core stage and is the imperial advisor of the Great Xia kingdom. The so-called pseudo-core stage refers to those who had no hope of reaching the core formation stage and thus gave up in exchange for power between the foundation establishment stage and the core formation stage. My engagement was set by the emperor before my father reached the pseudo-core stage. From a certain perspective, what the Great Xia's imperial family did back then wasn't very fair. That's why one can afford to belittle Qin Yan so much. Before one came up the mountain, my father told me that as long as one can become a direct disciple, then one can decide on my own marriage with Qin Yan. So, do you understand why Qin Yan wanted to announce the cancellation of the engagement in the sect a few years ago? At this point, are you still worried about your trip to the Great Xia kingdom? If Lu Yuan still didn't understand Meng Rian's words, then his IQ would be worrying. Even though there was enmity between him and Qin Yan, and the latter was a member of Great Xia's imperial family, senior sister Meng Rian had a pseudo-core stage imperial advisor as her father. In terms of background, he didn't have to worry about anything. Furthermore, through this incident, Lu Yuan could somehow guess how Meng Rian had managed to sneak into the Qinyan sect. The fact that the Yi family's family head could become a pseudo-core stage cultivator must have something to do with the power behind this demoness. Wait. The number one family in the Great Xia kingdom seemed to be colluding with external forces. Damn it, so this base camp had indeed been infiltrated. The plot reversed so quickly that Lu Yuan was caught off guard. After going around for so long, to think he ran from the territory of one group of spies to the territory of another group of spies. The only good news was that the spies didn't know that he knew they were spies. That being said, the Great Xia kingdom. Could he really go? Chapter 47. 47. The method of reaching core formation through the way of the heavens. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 47. The method of reaching core formation through the way of the heavens. Translator. Nyo iwo Studio Editor. Nyo iwo Studio. After unintentionally obtaining some crucial information from the demoness Meng Rian, Lu Yuan felt that he had roughly understood the situation of the Great Xia Kingdom. Even though the Great Xia Kingdom's imperial family was under the control of the Qinyan sect, where there were humans, there would be strife. Naturally, the Great Xia Kingdom wasn't a monolithic whole. The Great Xia Kingdom's Yi family was obviously used to restrain the existence of the imperial clan. A pseudo-core stage imperial advisor had obviously reached the level where he could ignore the ordinary emperor. There were even times when the imperial advisor's words might be more useful than the emperor's. The reason for this situation might be because of the Qinyan sect's tacit support. After all, Great Xia's imperial family would then have to cling to the Qinyan sect even more tightly. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do anything to the pseudo-core stage imperial advisor. Such a situation was clearly what the Qinyan sect desired. If the imperial family were to really forge the Great Xia Kingdom to be infallible, the Qinyan sect would not be at ease either. After all, a celestial cultivator's time would ultimately be spent on cultivation. They didn't have the mood to meddle in the affairs of the mortal world. Such a balanced situation would undoubtedly save a lot of trouble. However, the Qinyan sect might not have expected that between these two forces, an external force was interfering as well. What they did not know was that this external force could even reach into the Qinyan sect. They were really pushing their luck. Previously, Lu Yuan did not have much information, so he could not determine Meng Rian's identity. However, when he found out that in addition to the righteous and devilish sects, there was another force called the Taohua sect in the celestial cultivation world, as well as the heaven, earth, and mortal ranks, and as Meng Rian's cultivation technique, he was 80% sure that Meng Rian was from the Taohua sect. After all, if the devilish sects could plant spies in the Qinyan sect so easily, the Qinyan sect would have been destroyed long ago. Did one really think that the Qinyan sect's background check was just for show? Without some methods and schemes, there was no way to hide from the Qinyan sect's background check. Only a hidden force like the Taohua sect could do such a thing without anyone knowing. After all, no one would usually pay attention to a neutral force. Although Lu Yuan didn't know why the Taohua sect was doing this, as a steady person, he felt that he should always think of the worst-case scenario. Now that he knew that the Great Xia Kingdom might have some potential danger, he had to make some targeted preparations. Otherwise, if he wasn't careful, he might just die. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan started to contemplate what he should do to ensure that he wouldn't encounter any danger during this trip to the Great Xia Kingdom's capital. To be honest, the best solution was to not go. But this plan could already be ruled out. This was because if Lu Yuan wanted to change his master Han Yuanshan's mind, he would need to tell the latter that he could actually reach the core formation stage. However, in doing so, Lu Yuan would have to reveal some things. For example, his spiritual root aptitude was almost reaching 1,000. Furthermore, he would have to explain how he had been able to increase his spiritual root aptitude from 150 points to nearly 1,000 points in just a few years. Lu Yuan did not doubt that once he said these things, let alone Han Yuanshan, even the nascent soul stage patriarch of the Qinyan sect, Qin Hong, would force him to spill on the method of improving one's aptitude. One must know that Lu Yuan had managed to raise his spiritual roots aptitude by 5 to 6 times in a short 10 years. Anyone would be tempted by such an exaggerated effect. However, the reason why Lu Yuan was able to do this was thanks to his greatest reliance, the skill system. The system was a unique and irreplaceable cheat. Not to mention that Lu Yuan was unwilling to hand it over, even if he wanted to, he simply couldn't. As such, Lu Yuan had to hide well. This wasn't because he was delusional. Instead, he put himself in the other's shoes and thought about it. If he knew that someone had the ability to increase their spiritual root aptitude by a whole sum of 600 to 700 points in a short 10 years, what would he do? He would definitely try his best to make the other party reveal the method. It was all because Lu Yuan's current cultivation was not high that not many noticed him. Besides, even if he was discovered in the short term, he could still take the excuse that he had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens. However, as his cultivation increased, the effect of his aptitude would become increasingly obvious. He couldn't guarantee that he would be able to keep hiding like he was now. Even if he hadn't been arranged to go down the mountain this time, at a certain point in the future, Lu Yuan would also think of ways to leave the mountain to develop for some time. He would only come back when he was almost fully developed. It was just that this time, his timing in going down the mountain was much earlier than he had expected. However, Lu Yuan had also considered such a situation. It could only be said that there were many benefits to having the backing of a large sect, but there were also disadvantages. At the very least, in terms of freedom, the disciples of large sects were not as comfortable as the unaffiliated cultivators. But in general, the benefits of relying on a large sect in the early stages far outweighed the disadvantages. After confirming that he could not escape this time, Lu Yuan stopped thinking about whether he should leave the mountain. Even though the Great Xia Kingdom's capital was suspected to be a stronghold of spies in the mortal world, he and the demoness Meng Ruian had a very close relationship. Therefore, strictly speaking, he could be considered as half a member of the Taohua sect. Looking at the demoness Meng Ruian's actions. Although she seemed evil, she didn't seem to have done anything bad. At the very least, Lu Yuan did not sense any aura of resentment from the demoness Meng Ruian. Furthermore, the demoness Meng Ruian's luck was rising. All these signs indicated that the Taohua sect was most likely the kind of existence that was both good and evil. As long as he kept a good distance from them, they wouldn't find trouble with him. When he thought of this, Lu Yuan had pretty much decided on the direction of his actions after he went to the Great Xia Kingdom. Steady, author. Lu Yuan. Nothing concerns me, so just stay on the fence. Clock in on time, and get off work on time. The more you do, the more mistakes you'll make. Don't do anything and you can't make any mistakes. Others are good and I'm good. We won't interfere with each other. I'd rather do nothing than make a mistake. A poem written by the steady Lu Yuan. After confirming the direction of his actions in the Great Xia Kingdom, Lu Yuan finally started to prepare to head over. However, before he headed to the Great Xia Kingdom's capital, he still had an important matter to do. This matter was related to whether or not he could reach core formation through the way of the heavens. Just like the foundation establishment stage, the core formation stage was also divided into the core formation through the way of humans, core formation through the way of the earth, and core formation through the way of the heavens. However, unlike the foundation establishment stage, the success rate of core formation through the way of the heavens was very difficult to be influenced by external factors. The success rate and difficulty of core formation were completely dependent on the quality and number of one's spiritual roots. With every additional spiritual root that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, the probability of reaching core formation through the way of the heavens would increase by 10%. But don't think that just with more spiritual roots that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, it would be easier to reach core formation through the way of the heavens. Rather, it was the opposite. With many spiritual roots that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, it would indeed greatly increase the probability of reaching core formation through the way of the heavens. However, the difficulty of fusing these spiritual roots into a golden core would also be dozens of times more than normal core formation. If the difficulty of core formation with a single ordinary spiritual root was 1, then the difficulty level of core formation with 6 ordinary spiritual roots would be 32. In that sense, the difficulty of core formation with 6 spiritual roots in the way of the heavens would be 320. Spiritual roots in the way of the heavens themselves were extremely overbearing existence. An attempt to merge them perfectly was akin to putting 6 Brutuses together and making them trust each other. Never mind if such a thing could be pulled off, just consider how many Caesars could 6 Brutuses kill. However, the difficulty of a problem depended on who was facing it. To others, reaching core formation through the way of the heavens was a difficult and clueless task. However, Lu Yuan had a clear solution. This method was based on his pill refinement technique. The so-called core formation could actually be understood as pill refinement in the body. Thus, Lu Yuan only needed to raise his pill refinement technique to a certain level, and that would then affect his success rate in reaching core formation through the way of the heavens. This was what he wanted to do before he went down the mountain. After leaving Meng Rian's residence, Lu Yuan quietly returned to the herb fields. He looked at the precious medicinal herbs. Not only were his eyes green with envy, but drool was also flowing down from the corner of his mouth. Lu Yuan wiped his drool as he apologized in his heart, slurp. Master, oh, Master, I'm going down the mountain soon anyway, so I'll use the herbs in your herb fields in advance. It shouldn't be too much, right? Metaphysical Pill Refinement Technique, Level 10. 8320/10000. Chapter 48. 48.1 I'm indeed going down the mountain, but I didn't say I would do it immediately. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 48.1 I'm indeed going down the mountain, but I didn't say I would do it immediately. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio. To be honest, Lu Yuan had his eyes on the herb fields for a long time. It was just that he had not mastered many pill recipes before, so although he had indeed secretly used many herbs from the herb fields, most of them were used to refine marrow. Cleansing pills. The herbs used to make the marrow. Cleansing pill were precious in the outside world, but in these herb fields, they were not particularly valuable. This was also the reason why Han Yuanshan did not question Lu Yuan even after he found out that his herb fields were missing some herbs that should not be missing. It was nothing else other than the wealthiness of a core formation stage pharmacist. But now, 5 years have passed. Not only had Lu Yuan learned many pill recipes from Elder Han, but his pill refinement technique had improved a lot as well. As a result, he could now refine many high-level pills. In other words, many of the medicinal herbs in the fields could be of use to him. The reason why Lu Yuan had returned secretly was to refine 2 very special pills. The first was the Earth Spirit Pill, which could assist in the cultivation of the special Earth-type divine ability, Gilded Sand. The other was the Wind Spirit Pill, which could assist in the cultivation of the special Wind-type divine ability, Formless Squall. The reason why these 2 pills were named in such a way was that they didn't have fixed effects. The effects of the pills were largely determined by the materials used during the refinement. The Wind Spirit Pill made from the blood essence of a demon king would produce largely different effects from the Wind Spirit Pill made from the blood essence of a great demon. To cultivate Formless Squall, he needed the Wind Spirit Pill. To cultivate Gilded Sand, he naturally needed the Earth Spirit Pill. Gilded Sand was a divine ability Lu Yuan obtained from Muchichi. He had also obtained another special divine ability called the Aura Concealment Technique. Currently, not only had Lu Yuan cultivated the Aura Concealment Technique to the maximum level, but he had also completed the assessment and advanced it. The advanced Aura Concealment Technique had evolved to become the Aura Obscurity Technique. Aura Obscurity Technique, Level 2, 140/2000. Able to greatly conceal one's aura. Even a cultivator's spiritual sense cannot easily detect it. Thanks to this divine ability, Lu Yuan discovered that even core formation realm cultivators could not sense his exact cultivation. This was also the reason why the demoness Meng Rian had only said that Lu Yuan's current cultivation was close to hers, but she was not completely certain. It was because even though she had many intimate interactions with Lu Yuan, she was still unable to sense his exact cultivation level. As for Lu Yuan, who had obtained the system for so many years, he had more or less figured out what made advanced skills more powerful than ordinary skills. Most initial skills only had some ordinary functions and didn't have many special features. However, the advanced skills were different. They usually had some special effects. Even if it was just an ordinary skill at the start, it would also achieve an effect comparable to a divine ability after advancement. The difference between an initial skill and a skill that had undergone its first advancement was comparable to that of a foundation establishment stage divine ability. The difference between an initial skill and a skill that had undergone its second advancement was comparable to that of a core formation stage divine ability. Up until now, Lu Yuan had yet to achieve a second advancement in any of his skills. After all, the proficiency required to cultivate a skill that had undergone its first advancement to the maximum level was 10 times more than before. Therefore, it was not easy to cultivate a skill that had undergone its first advancement to the maximum level. Fortunately, as his level increased, the proficiency points he gained from practicing his skills also increased. Therefore, in general, the speed at which he cultivated advanced skills was slower than that of skills that had not advanced, but the overall speed was not much slower. As Lu Yuan's understanding of the skill interface grew deeper, he was also becoming increasingly experienced in increasing his proficiency. There were two ways to quickly increase one's proficiency. One was to repeat the same training method with high intensity. The proficiency points gained through this method were average, but it was more stable. For example, Lu Yuan's daily routine of refining pills was this method. During pill refinement, he did not deliberately practice any skills, but the proficiency of the skills used in pill refinement would have obvious increase. On the other hand, the other method was to focus on practicing a certain skill. By doing so, the proficiency of a single skill would increase very quickly. This could be seen in Lu Yuan's swordsmanship. After Lu Yuan had completed the assessment set by his master, Han Yuanshan, he put the cultivation of his combat skills on the agenda. Swordsmanship and other similar skills were the skills that Lu Yuan cultivated the most during that time. After Lu Yuan learned the sword control technique, elementary swordsmanship had been incorporated into the sword control technique. After another 4 years of cultivation, Lu Yuan's sword control technique advanced into a new skill, the wind riding sword control technique. Wind riding sword control technique, 1598/5000. Double the speed of the sword. The double here was based on Lu Yuan himself and not others. Let's put it this way. Lu Yuan's current cultivation was at level 3 of the foundation establishment stage. However, his normal speed of traveling on the sword while not using any skills was already comparable to the speed of a cultivator at level 6 of the foundation establishment stage. If he were to include his wind spiritual root that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens, as well as the cultivation technique breeze mystical scripture, his instantaneous flying speed could even be comparable to a cultivator at level 8 of the foundation establishment stage. Putting aside the offensive power of such a flying sword, Lu Yuan was definitely the fastest among his peers when it came to the speed of traveling on his sword. Divine ability wind riding sword control technique plus cultivation technique breeze mystical scripture plus wind spiritual root that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens equals invincible escape abilities. That's right. After Lu Yuan had obtained the blood essence of the bird-type demon king from his master, Han Yuanshan, 4 years ago, he successfully completed the foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for his wind spiritual root. As such, he now had 3 spiritual roots that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens. Compared to the sex number 1 genius, Mu Chichi, he already had 1 more spiritual root that had achieved foundation establishment through the way of the heavens. Still, Lu Yuan was not satisfied. What he really wanted was to reach foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for all 9 spiritual roots. Following that, he would accomplish the feat of forming a golden core through the way of the heavens. The 9 spiritual roots he needed were metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, yin, and yang. Among them, Lu Yuan had already obtained the wind spiritual root, which was not one of the 5 elements. There were 3 left. lightning, yin, and yang. However, Lu Yuan could not obtain these three acquired spiritual roots for the time being. This was because the Qinyan sect did not have records on how to form these three acquired spiritual roots. If he wanted the specific cultivation techniques for these three spiritual roots, Lu Yuan would have to find them himself. For this, Lu Yuan gave himself 100 years. If he couldn't find the cultivation technique of these three acquired spiritual roots within 100 years, he would use the spiritual roots he had at that time to condense the golden core. This was Lu Yuan's first 100-year plan, or 100-year plan 1.0 for short. And in 100-year plan 1.0, Lu Yuan had countless 5-year plans. His 5-year plan had been updated to version 2.0. 5-year plan 2.0, 1. Complete the second advancement for at least one skill. 2. Achieve foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for at least one spiritual root. 3. Learn at least one special attribute's divine ability. In the 5-year plan 2.0, the task of achieving foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for at least one spiritual root had been completed. This spiritual root was the Heaven's Wind spiritual root. As for the tasks of, complete the second advancement for at least one skill, and, learn at least one special attribute's divine ability, Lu Yuan was prepared to finish them before he left the mountain. Now, his metaphysical pill refinement technique was almost at the maximum level and was about to meet the conditions for advancement. As for the special divine abilities, the pills needed for the special divine abilities Gilded Sand and Formless Squall could also be refined today. Therefore, these two tasks of the 5-year plan 2.0 could soon be completed by Lu Yuan. In any case, his master had only told him to go down the mountain as soon as possible for the expedition, but he didn't say that he had to go immediately. Since he didn't say that, let's just treat it as if he didn't need to go down the mountain immediately. In terms of respecting his master, Lu Yuan felt that he had always been very good at it. He was able to understand his master's every word and interpret it as he wanted. This was one of Lu Yuan's precious strengths. At the thought of this, the last bit of psychological burden in Lu Yuan's heart was gone. Not long after, an excited and strange laugh came from the calm herb fields. Kakik. Name: Lu Yuan, Cultivation. Foundation Establishment Stage, Level 3, Spiritual Root Aptitude. 900 points, Spiritual Roots. Metal Spiritual Root, Foundation Establishment through the way of the heavens. Water Spiritual Root, Foundation Establishment through the way of the heavens. Wind Spiritual Root, Foundation Establishment through the way of the heavens. Lifespan: 30 out of 1000, Innate Talent. Destined Lucky Star, Cultivation Technique. Qinyan Technique, Qi Cultivation Chapter, Level 10, Breeze Mystical Scripture, Level 3, 9 Guard Tortoiseshell Technique, Level 3, Luck. 1052, Skill Proficiency, Metaphysical Pill Refinement Technique, Level IO, .8320/IOO, Wind. Riding Sword Control Technique, Level 5. 1598/5000, Aura Obscurity Technique, Level 2. 14.0/2000, The 5 Elements Manipulation Techniques, Level 7. 3584/7000, Green Flame Technique, Level 9. 7854/9000. Chapter 49. 49, Skill Advancement, Divine Soul Pill. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 49. Skill Advancement, Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. Eddie E.T. Translator. Nyo IWO Studio Editor. Nyo IWO Studio. The process of making the earth and wind spirit pills was not too difficult for Lu Yuan. The difficulty of refining these two pills wasn't in the technique but in the collection of raw materials. Take the wind spirit pill as an example. If Lu Yuan wanted to concoct a wind spirit pill that could assist in the cultivation of the special divine ability, Formless Squall, he would need the blood essence of a bird. Type Wind. Type Demon King as a drug primer. There was no need to explain how difficult it was to kill a demon king. After all, it was an existence comparable to the core formation stage. The last drop of a wind-type demon king's blood essence in his hands had only been managed to save by being especially frugal. Back when Lu Yuan was achieving foundation establishment through the way of the heavens for his wind spiritual root, he realized that he only needed to use 2/3 of the wind-type demon king's blood essence to increase his success rate to 98%. As such, he had kept the remaining 1/3 of the wind-type demon king's blood essence. It was also thanks to his frugal style that he had the capital to refine the wind spirit pill and cultivate the formless squall. As for the earth spirit pill, the material that Lu Yuan had left which could be used as the drug primer was the remaining black tortoiseshell. Even though Lu Yuan had used up quite a huge chunk of the black tortoiseshell during his foundation establishment, a 5,000-year-old black tortoiseshell was equivalent to a level 5 core formation stage cultivator. Although the black tortoiseshell that Lu Yuan had obtained was only a small piece, he still didn't finish it all when breaking through to the foundation establishment stage. Due to the existence of these two treasures, Lu Yuan thus yearned for the medicinal herbs in the herb fields. Now, with the departure of his master and the fact that he was about to leave the mountain, the right time, place, and people were all in place, it was time for a backstab. It was time to ask his master for some cultivation resources. As a decisive person, Lu Yuan quickly took all the herbs he needed from the herb fields. Then, with the cover of the night, he quietly returned to his empty residence. The whole process was done professionally, and the escape route was reasonable. It was obvious that he had planned this long ago. After returning to his residence, Lu Yuan's anxious heart finally settled down. In fact, he had been planning for today's matter for a long time. When he saw that the time was right, he decisively made his move. His master, Han Yuanshan, had gone to attend the wedding banquet of a fellow Taoist. A cultivator's wedding banquet was no ordinary matter. Not to mention the fact that a cultivator who could be treated as a friend by Han Yuanshan must be at the core formation stage. For such a cultivator to hold a wedding banquet, there was a great chance that they would have to discuss Tao. Therefore, Han Yuanshan would probably only return after a year. As long as he left the mountain before his master returned, he would be able to avoid the latter perfectly. If he didn't make a move now, when would he? Knowing that he only had 1 year to eliminate the stolen goods, Lu Yuan started to refine the wind and earth spirit pills decisively. He still had a lot of luck value left. Therefore, the process of refining the earth spirit pill and the wind spirit pill was very smooth this time, though it took a little longer. Lu Yuan spent a month refining the 2 spirit pills. Although it took a long time, Lu Yuan could not help but be joyful when he saw his harvest. Wind spirit pill, perfect, level. Foundation establishment stage, effect. After consumption, the body's affinity to wind-type spiritual energy will be permanently increased by 50 points in a short time. Earth spirit pill, perfect, level. Foundation establishment stage, effect. After consumption, the body's affinity to earth-type spiritual energy will be permanently increased by 50 points in a short time. Looking at the 2 spirit pills in his hands, Lu Yuan admired them for a while before putting them away. Before he consumed the 2 pills and cultivated the special divine abilities, Lu Yuan had an even more important matter to attend to. In the past month, his system interface had been refreshed many times. Metaphysical Pill Refinement Technique, Level IO.IOO/IOO, you have fulfilled the conditions for skill advancement. Do you want to complete the advancement? Current advancement success rate: 63%. Not surprisingly, Lu Yuan saw that his metaphysical pill refinement technique had finally reached the maximum level. Although the success rate of the skill advancement was not high at the moment, it did not matter. He had his methods. Ding! Special effect, Destined Time, activated. Luck value has been temporarily doubled, at the same time when Lu Yuan activated Destined Time, the success rate of the metaphysical pill refinement technique's advancement changed. Current advancement success rate. 98%, the auspicious time has arrived, let's go. Ding. Metaphysical pill refinement technique is undergoing advancement. The advancement of the metaphysical pill refinement technique has been successful. Please choose the direction of advancement. 1. Increase the basic success rate of pill refinement. 2. Increase the upper limit of luck during pill refinement. 3. Allow the pill refinement technique to be used for other purposes. Lu Yuan looked at the 3 advancement paths and made his choice after thinking for a moment. Ding. The metaphysical pill refinement technique has been advanced successfully. You have obtained a new skill, the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. The technique can reach the soul when it has been practiced to the extreme. Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique, Level 1. 0/10,000, Effect. A special pill refinement technique that combines the Divine Soul. It can be used for pill refinement, combat, and even cultivation. The description for the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique was short, but its effects were absolutely overbearing. Lu Yuan closed his eyes and grasped the gist of the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. Then, he slowly opened his eyes. The joy in his eyes was unconcealable. This advanced skill was even more exaggerated than he had thought. Lu Yuan stretched out his palm and a ball of green flame appeared in his palm. In just a moment, the ball of green flame started to condense. In the end, it turned from a ball of divine abilities flame into a round and smooth green pill. Green flame pill, soul, level. Foundation establishment stage, level 3, effect. After detonation, it can unleash a green flame attack that is comparable to a level 3 foundation establishment stage cultivator, shelf life. 3 days, in terms of effect, the green flame pill, soul, was not much different from an ordinary green flame pill. However, considering that this green flame pill, soul, was something that Lu Yuan had refined with nothing but his spiritual sense, soul power, and some power of the green flame, this was undoubtedly very shocking. This was because such a technique was not much different from creating something out of thin air. Rather, using spiritual sensei, soul power, and spiritual energy to refine special pills was not the most domineering part of the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique. Instead, the most domineering aspect of the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique was in refining the soul. This meant that Lu Yuan could temper his divine soul like a pill. It didn't sound much, but after one's divine soul was tempered to a certain extent, it would be replaced by the nascent soul. Generally speaking, only core formation stage cultivators had the means and ability to cultivate the divine soul. However, by relying on the Divine Soul Pill Refinement Technique, Lu Yuan could achieve this at the foundation establishment stage. Although he couldn't form a nascent soul like the core formation stage cultivators, he could greatly increase the strength of his divine soul. If his divine soul could be strong to a certain extent, when it was time for core formation, he could then rely on his powerful divine soul to force all the spiritual roots to fuse. This would greatly increase Lu Yuan's success rate in reaching the core formation stage. It would not be an exaggeration to say that this advanced skill allowed Lu Yuan to be reborn. After some excitement, Lu Yuan quickly recollected his thoughts and calmed himself down. Since he had successfully advanced the metaphysical pill refinement technique, it was time for him to start cultivating the 2 special divine powers. Chapter 50. 50. Heading to Great Xia. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50. Heading to Great Xia. Translator. Nyo.bo Studio Editor. Nyo.bo Studio, Ding. You have learned the special divine ability, Gilded Sand. Gilded Sand, Level 1. 0 out of 200, Ding. You have learned the special divine ability, Formless Squall, Formless Squall, Level 1. 0/200, with the help of the luck talent, Lu Yuan spent 3 days and 3 nights before he finally learned these 2 special divine abilities. After Lu Yuan successfully learned them, he felt that although his cultivation did not have any obvious changes, his strength had increased by quite a bit. In fact, the so-called special divine ability was a special skill that combined active effects and passive effects. It was just like how after successfully cultivating the green flame technique, Lu Yuan's lifespan and spiritual energy recovery speed had increased by a lot. This time, after he successfully cultivated the gilded sand and formless squall, the toughness and operating speed of his spiritual energy, as well as his body's constitution, had all received significant improvements. Among them, gilded sand could be perfectly combined with the power of the 9-guard black tortoiseshell, allowing his defensive power to increase by another level. However, Lu Yuan's current cultivation level was not high and he did not have much spiritual energy, so the gilded sand he could produce at this point was actually not much. At most, the gilded sand would only be able to cover an arm. However, once his cultivation increased, he may very well possibly cover his entire body with the gilded sand. Gilded sand was extraordinary, but the other special divine ability, formless squall, had amazing effects as well. The biggest feature of the formless squall was its formlessness and strong wind. The spiritual energy wind that was unleashed by formless squall was not only very quiet but also very powerful. Coupled with Lu Yuan's current wind-riding sword control technique, if he were to use it against an enemy, the enemy might even be instantly killed before they could even react. Furthermore, after learning these 2 special abilities, Lu Yuan also discovered that he could rely on the divine soul pill refinement technique to merge a portion of the gilded sand with the formless squall. Although he was limited by his cultivation and the strength of his soul, and thus could only display a limited amount of it, even if it was just a small portion of the special fusion, its effect and power still made Lu Yuan exclaim in admiration. The gilded sand that had been supplemented by the formless squall could kill people without them noticing. It could come and go without a trace. Not only was its attack power shocking, but it was also pervasive and extremely difficult to defend against. All in all, these 2 special divine abilities greatly enriched Lu Yuan's combat methods. He was no longer the weak fighter he used to be. That being said, learning the divine abilities was one aspect, and using them well was another. Thus, Lu Yuan spent the last bit of time he had before he left the mountain to familiarize himself with these 2 skills. He wanted to try to increase his proficiency in these divine abilities before he left the mountain. Time flowed by unknowingly in the mountains. A year later, in the herb fields of the Pharmacist Valley. Who used the herbs in my herb fields without my permission? Han Yuanshan, who had just returned, looked at his herb fields, which had been emptied by a third, and shouted angrily. Just as Han Yuanshan was looking for clues about the thief, he suddenly saw an envelope on the table in the room. He picked up the letter and read it in confusion. Dear honored master, when you read this letter, I should already be on my way to the capital of the Great Xia Kingdom. Although you have emphasized many times that there should not be too much danger on this trip, I have a different view. Master, everything in the world is full of variables. No matter how ordinary and insignificant something was, it may still cause some unexpected changes to happen. As such, no matter how safe the Great Xia Kingdom's capital was, human-made disasters may be avoided, but natural disasters are unable to guard against. What if a meteorite fell on the capital while I was still there? With your disciples' cultivation, if I were to encounter such a natural disaster, death is almost certain. But as the saying goes, a teacher for a day is a father for life. How could I object to what you have said? I'm not blaming you for forcing me to go down the mountain, just stating the danger of this trip. Considering this, I think it's necessary for me to improve my cultivation before leaving the mountain. As such, I have taken it on my own to use some of the medicinal herbs in your herb fields to refine some medicinal pills. I hope that you will take into account the danger I may go through and not blame me too much. Even if you were present, after knowing this, you would probably allow me to use those herbs, right? Finally, I wish my dear master all the best and that you can break through to the nascent soul stage as soon as possible. Your beloved disciple, Lu Yuan. Han Yuanshan held the letter in his hand. He could not even smile and was trembling with anger. The good news was that the culprit who had laid his hands on the herb fields had been found. The bad news was that the culprit had run away. Faced with this situation, Han Yuanshan suddenly felt like he had nowhere to vent his anger. He couldn't possibly fly to the Great Xia Kingdom, capture Lu Yuan, and give him a beating, right? Just when Han Yuanshan was unable to vent his anger, an unlucky man appeared. Master, you're back. As Bai Dafei entered the herb fields, he smiled and said, Master, it's such a coincidence that junior brother seemed to have just left the mountain not long ago. He just happened to miss you. But please don't blame him for not knowing his manners. He told me to send his regards to you, which means that he still cares for you. The unlucky Dafei, who was still talking, did not notice Han Yuanshan's cold expression. You mean to say? Your junior brother Lu left just not long ago. Yes, one was the one who personally sent him down the mountain, Bai Dafei answered subconsciously. Then, I saw you come back right after I sent him off, so I came back as soon as possible. After hearing this, Han Yuanshan was silent for a moment. Then, he waved at Bai Dafei and said, Dafei, come here. I have a few words to say to you. Looking at the expressionless Han Yuanshan, Bai Dafei suddenly felt that something was wrong. Danger, danger, danger. There was a situation. However, Bai Dafei had no way to refuse his master's order. In the end, he could only walk to Han Yuanshan unwillingly. Not long after, wails could be heard from the room. Master, why did you suddenly hit me? Why? Do I need a reason to hit you? If I do have to give you a reason, it would be that when you first entered the door, why did you enter with your left foot first? Don't you know that I hate it when my disciples use their left foot to enter the door first? Bai Dafei was speechless. Meanwhile, in the sky outside Qinyan sect, a seemingly ordinary youth was currently riding a flying sword and frantically wiping the sweat off his forehead. That was a close call. Fortunately, he had been paying attention to the letters in the sect. He knew that his master would be back soon, so he decisively chose to run away today. Otherwise, he would have been caught by his master on the spot. Now that he had already left the mountain, no matter how angry his master was, he couldn't possibly chase after him to beat him up, right? After consoling himself, Lu Yuan took out the map and looked at his current location to see how far he was from the capital of Great Xia. The Great Xia Kingdom's capital wasn't far from the Qinyan sect, to begin with. Both were located in the center of the Great Xia Kingdom. If he were to travel with his flying sword, he could reach in about a day. Currently, Lu Yuan was only about half a day away from the Great Xia Kingdom's capital. The new director of the Great Xia Kingdom's Devil Slayers division was about to get into position.